Studio presents Zorro, starring Guy Williams.
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Tidarium Hangar. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the entire toy line for Gabriel Zorro. And it's not a very big toy line, 4 figures, 2 horses. But this is very closely related with just recolored horses from the Lone Ranger and similar body types, similar accessories, types of accessories, and similar ways that they work with the figure. But now this introduces swords, and it's kind of fun. It's not going to take really all that long, but it'll be fun to take a look at this and to maybe clear up some questions people have. And with that, I may not know it all, but I've got most of it here because there's not much to collect. It's probably the funnest, easiest toy lines to collect coming up. So starting out, I'm going to show how this toy line mirrors the Lone Ranger toy line with the same horse except recolored, and then of course they recolor the saddles. And also the figures themselves are very, very similar. Now they're not reused figures. The parts are all different, but it's still very similar. Now, I'm going to knock that horse over. Here is the Zorro versus the Lone Ranger figure, and you can see the similar type of construction. They both have their holsters that are like in there. They're kind of hard a bit, and then they have the guns that go into the side. Now I have these guys in a bag because I don't want to lose them. But let's look at the horses real quick. Yes, it is hard to make them stand. They are the same construction of the same horse down to the saddle, as you can see right there. And I probably should turn this around. So even like the blue stirrup, wherever the blue stirrup is. Thought it was odd. I grabbed the wrong horse. This is the blue stirrup, and it's the same exact stirrup as what's over here, except this one's kind of a black or maybe a dark brown. But it's the same thing. And we'll get into looking at the horse a little bit deeper here in a bit. But for now, just showing the similarities that they're the same horse, just recolored. And it makes a whole lot of sense. Kind of why they did it. Save money, put out a cheap toy line. And they were cheap, because the receipts show a lot of these figures were only $1. Now for the good old-fashioned 80s size comparison. As you can see, this is a He-Man figure, which He-Man is much bigger than this guy, and Cobra Commander. But it's probably more interesting to see next to the Cobra Commander. So it feels a little bit on the shorter side of Cobra Commander, but still in that 3.75 inch scale. And I chose Cobra Commander in this outfit because I guess it's all the rage in the classified talks these days. So I figured it'd be kind of fun to link a Retro Wednesday with that, because this guy's been leaked that he's coming out. But there you go, 3.75 inch scale, and it works. All right, so looking at this guy, he looks really good. I mean, I think Gabriel did a fantastic job on this figure from the day one. Now, this is the flagship figure, the figure every kid's going to get, and I bet you they sold 10 times more of this figure than any of the other ones, which makes the other ones harder to track down a little bit. He does come with this cape. It's kind of like a vinyl cape, but it's got red on the inside, so it's dual colored. And it has a string tie, which is strange. If I can get that string tie to show up. Very, very strange with a string tie. Different. Now he has a holster for his gun, and I'll show the gun separate. It is a hard time I have a hard time getting that gun in there to stay. So if it's staying, I'm leaving it. Much easier to have the kind of the sheath there for the sword. All right, that's still kind of a pain. Anyhow, a pretty good figure overall. And with that, let's see what he looks like holding a sword. Right, here he is with his sword out, and I feel like I might have even damaged it. It's really thin. It's a really thin sword, and so is the sword they used in the movie. It's a very thin sword, also to fit in that little spot there, but it looks good. It's kind of strange, though. They all have a green handle to the sword on a black and white show. It's kind of funny. And so with that, I like his red belt. I like that there's a little bit of color breakup. I like that they really did get his mask down just right. It really does look like it. And they got the stash just right. And I was watching the show and I was thinking, how exactly did you shave that thin of a mustache? That was just impressive. But there is the figure. Now, the second thing about this is the little handgun. Now, I keep some of them in this bag, and I think it's easiest to showcase it in this baggie here. But there is... So these little muskets are what they come with. And then the other ones are for Lone Ranger, and I store all my Lone Ranger ones in this bag. That's the Tonto knife. But yeah, the little musket is what I call it, is what they use. And the revolver is, show this a little bit better. This is the musket that goes with this line, and that's the revolver that goes with the Lone Ranger line. So they're similar. They get mixed up a lot of times. They get called the wrong thing. And my understanding is they just made one revolver for the Lone Ranger and then the musket looking thing for Zorro. Now the horse is called Tempest. I'm guessing it's Tempest. I don't remember the horse being called Tempest, but that's what the guides are saying. And the package for the horse. So pretty nice looking horse overall. I like it all in jet black, and the blue saddle's kind of strange too. So that's a weird one for this. And then there's good old Lone Ranger in there doing his thing. He does retain the harness and the reins and all of that stuff. And I guess I'm in the process of still trying to figure out which of these horses I like more, because I do have this one over here that has that on it, but I don't display a figure on this one. Anyway, the stirrups and stuff. Now, it also has a movable tail, just a little bit of movement in the tail. You got movement in the legs, and you need that movement to try to get it stabilized, because this thing is not a very stable horse, but you can make it stand, and it's made to stand with a bit of a stance to it, not straight up, just the legs all straight together. It's a little bit different. One in front of the other, one hoof in front of the other. All right, next up we're going to talk about Amigo, another character I never even knew existed until I collected this line, until I got me a Zorro figure, and I said, well, how many other figures are in this line? 3? Let's finish it. So, got me an Amigo figure. The thing about this is that the figure looks a lot like Zorro with the head. They might have even reused the head and just not painted the mustache on. I don't know. Looks very, very similar. There is that trim painted on the hat. And then he's got a little tie going on right there in his open jacket. So it does look the part for the most part for the era. It looks pretty good. I like the colors, and it is the most the brightest looking figure, and it does look like he would ride his horse there that's tan. So that works. Now they all have the same accessories that I know of, and there might be hilt color variations depending on the character and figure, but when you collect like I did, the cheap as possible, then it is what it is. Now they have 7 points of articulation like a mask figure. So the heads move, the arms move, and then the hips and knees move. The only reason they have that additional articulation is because they ride horses. They ride the horse. But let's, before we put him on the horse, let's take a look at what they call Picaro. And you see they are prone to some discoloration to them, and especially with this color of it. But you can see that he has his stirrups in there, so that's good. They pop off. You can pop them on, pop them off. Changing out one of these figures, this saddle from one horse to another, is really hard, almost impossible. I would just suggest, if you're going to change out these parts, to heat them up real good with a hairdryer before you separate them, and they'll separate a little bit easier. Getting them back together may take you half an hour. It's funny. All the horse stuff is about the same. This is probably not the best looking horse in existence, but I got it cheap, and that's what I was looking for in this toy line, to affordable collection for a fun little side toy line, and it was fun. It really was fun collecting this and watching a couple episodes of the show. Next we have Sergeant Gonzalez, and I believe it's Sergeant Pedro Gonzalez. Am I right? I might be right. I might be wrong, but the guide only says Sergeant Gonzalez, and I think I am using Figure Realm as my reference. So there it is. Now they do all have the same accessories. Now I did get this guy pretty cheap. I got him pretty much like this for $30. I was pretty pleased. It's not a bad deal. It comes with a removable hat, and it's blue, and it falls off really easy. Probably will fall off 6 times today. The paint on here is fading. I might touch up the paint, and with that, I'm a little nervous about messing with scrubbing them too hard, because more paint will come off. But then if I just touch it up, it's no big deal. I wouldn't be able to touch up this tampograph on this shoulder, though. Whatever it is, kind of looks like some ranking, maybe? Is that what that is? His rank? Anyhow, he does have the 5 points of articulation. He is a chubby fellow, and he has his holster. I think I'd call it a scabbard. It's actually called a scabbard, I believe. I keep calling stuff wrong things, but anyhow, kind of rough shape on a figure, but I'm wondering if this is supposed to be for a salute. It's to be to hold his hat, or if it is to be to also hold his hat. So hard to tell what the arm pose was for in the first place. There is Sergeant Gonzalez. He's also the comedy relief of the show for the most part, and yeah, it is what it is. Lastly, we're going to get into Captain Ramon. See, is it Captain Ramon or Captain Raymond? Captain Ramon. But anyhow, I just collected the figures and got them together, and it looks pretty good. Again, another one I got really cheap. Another one that came with some accessories. Probably not all of them at the same time, but pretty cheap. And he has paintwear on his hair and stuff on this one. But he does have these... To me, it looks like it's supposed to be gold, but it's showing up green on the camera. Maybe when I get into editing, it won't look all green. But we have green here. Maybe it is... I would think it's gold, though. This green here, that looks greenish, too. But again, mine's in pretty rough shape. Maybe it was supposed to be gold in the first place. And he is a taller, thinner fellow, and he does have the 7 points of articulation. He has the same weapons and accessories. He also has, of course, the ability to hold those. And again, I really love that about this toy line. I love the fact that they can hold these accessories. Now, I thought about tracking down another hat, because I believe in the show, the show, he has a hat. So here it is. That's what he looks like if he has the Sergeant Gonzalez hat on. And how's that look? Does that look pretty good? Is it worth it? I think somebody tried to paint a rim on this hat. Hope you enjoyed this look at the Gabriel Zorro toy line. I haven't really seen anyone else talk about it much more than show a figure or two, maybe a horse now and then, but it is kind of a fun toy line to get together. Small, doesn't take a lot of space to have the entire toy line on your shelf. Not really all that expensive. Of course, a lot of stuff depends on condition. And with that, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Have you ever seen these? Do you remember them from back in the day? Or was this the first time you've seen it or heard of the Gabriel Zorro toy line? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Today, I'm hanging out.